Greetings, friends and colleagues. Welcome to NOA's Zoominar, Creating Through the Challenge, Opera in the Time of Uncertainty. Greetings from my backyard in Santa Barbara. I'm Benjamin Brecher, and I'm honored to serve as president of NOA, an incredible organization filled with artists of many disciplines, pianists, conductors, directors, producers, singers, all of whom love opera and are deeply committed to this art form that we all love so much. Many of you have already begun the school year. I hope you are all doing well. I'm on quarters, so I don't start until actually the October, which is a long way off. But hopefully you will enjoy this, get some ideas. We had a wonderful session in June, and this is kind of a follow-up to that. I want to welcome our esteemed panel, Ana de Archuleta, founder of ADA Artist Management. Welcome. Leigh Holman, Director of Opera Studies, University of Colorado Boulder. Joshua May, Assistant Professor of Voice and Director of Opera Activities, Schwob School of Music, Columbus State University. Rebecca Renfro, Director of Opera and Associate Professor of Voice at Sam Houston State University. Lastly, John Truitt, Director of Opera, Ball State University. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. On behalf of the Executive Board and the Board of Directors, we really appreciate you being here today. And we're going to dive right in. So, like I said before, many of you are already starting school, and our first discussion point is, how are you planning on teaching your opera workshop course and or performances this fall? How do you plan on creating a meaningful experiences for your students with that chosen format? Does anyone want to begin?
I'll go.
Excellent, Leigh, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Hello, everyone. At the University of Colorado at Boulder, we have decided to go have a hybrid semester, meaning that part of it's online and part of the semester will be in person. After Thanksgiving, students will stay home and won't be coming back, but we'll still be working with them online. And they've given us a lot of leeway to sort of make our own plans for our classes. And then we presented a plan this summer to the campus, and they've really been supportive of the things we're trying to do. So what we're going to do this fall is, for opera theater class, I have an undergrad class I teach and a graduate class I teach. We'll be learning some duets and trios that will actually, we're going to do them live, but not for an audience. We'll film those and then post them on our website, and our students, can actually, send that to their friends and family and that sort of thing. We were very, very lucky because we happened to choose the opera Hansel and Gretel last year to do this fall, and there's only 3 people on stage at any given time except for the end, so we'll figure that out. I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but it's going to be interesting to stage the prayer 12 feet apart, but we'll see how it goes. But it should be fun, and we have 3 different casts, 2 in German and 1 in English, and so we'll film all 3 and post those up. That's what we're planning on doing.
Right. What other rehearsal procedures or like safeguards have you planned? Just the socially distancing?
Oh, we have a lot. We have, at CU, we have some of the leading epidemiologists, so we get a lot of information. We've been meeting all summer about it. We, the teachers and students have to wear masks at all times, except, and that's inside and outside, except when singing. So what we want to do to try to be safe is I'm going to try to rehearse with them so that they're not actually singing out when I'm staging them very much at all.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing that. We've also, my technical director, Ron Mueller, made a fantastic sort of staging chart for me. He took the whole stage and he's painting reference points on the stage. So, and they're like green and yellow and red. So those three sort of the colors. And so I might have a singer on one of those green dots. The other singer knows that, like, if I have Hansel there, then Gretel knows that she can't get closer to him than one of those other green dots. And then we can sort of move around those areas. We're not stuck there by any means. But the school at large is very, very safe and have lots of protocols for us. The voice lessons are 30 minutes. They're usually an hour. They're 30 minutes, and then they have to leave the room. The teacher, pianist, and student leave the room and let the aerosols fade away for 15 minutes, and then they can come back in. And what some of the voice teachers have decided to do is just kind of use each other's studios. So if there's a couple of days that one of the voice teachers is not there at all, then they'll teach like 30 minutes and then walk into the other person's studio and continue the lesson. So they don't have to wait and have that crazy schedule. But yes, Colorado takes it very seriously. So
obviously,
we're
it's great
hoping.
that you're all working together. That sounds
Yep.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Josh, what are you doing this fall?
So the voice faculty and all opera events and choral events are going to be virtual this fall. So we're working on a voice platform where we have two-way sound, and our pianists can meet our singers virtually. We will also have some Zoom coachings, and we'll have master classes coming in via Zoom. So our students get to still work with outside wonderful artists. For opera, we're planning on doing something called Project Aria. Each student comes with an aria of their choice, and we're collaborating with the dance department in their choreography exposition class. And we're also going to collaborate with the animation department to create small vignettes of each aria using the senior capstone of each course to kind of peer-to-peer collaboratively create a unique performance project that'll be part of our live streamed opera scenes at the end of the semester. In addition to that, we will have some duets and a few one-acts. We're going to do Barab's Game of Chance, which we're going to use green screening for and capture individual singers. And then I have some digital backgrounds that I've created to kind of bring us into life of the set and scene. I've also chosen A Hand of Bridge by Barber to do that. So we can play on Zoom some cards and have some different digital breakouts and expansions of their singing arias to see their imaginations come to life. We wanted to find a way that was effective for us to create audio recordings for our singers. So we'll be using a recording booth to capture the audio, exterior and Zoom video capture, as well as some green screening individually in our large performance halls. And we have a magic editing team created by myself, my graduate assistant, Hannah, shout out to Hannah, she's watching, and as well some of our wonderful AV people here that do the amazing audio video for Schwob. They're gonna team with us to create this content. So it's gonna be a lot of peer-to-peer learning, experimentation for collaboration, and some really unique performance practices. We will also do some staging traditionally, but they'll be with masks and they'll be playing with some of the audio that's pre-recorded so that they don't have to sing in rehearsal with us, but instead can use their track that they pre-recorded and move through the scene with us for safety and security.
Great. So Anna, you're where we want to send our wonderful students after they have these great collegiate experiences. What has your experience been for things that are happening this fall, and how are you helping create opportunities?
Hi, everybody. It's good to be here with you all. So we are working with companies. I mean, every company, every state has different guidelines, and it has different requirements from their health groups. So some companies are choosing not to do anything at all in the fall. And then some companies are sort of retailoring their seasons, and they're using their young artists a lot more. One of the trends that I'm seeing is that instead of bringing people from other states, they're using their local artists. They had already programmed a young artist, and the artists are there. They'll maximize the use of this artist in combination with local singers. That, in order to create something that I call digital by design, which is what all of you are talking about, which means is that we are no longer just throwing it all out there and see what sticks digitally, but we're creating content that is specifically for the virtual area, which is what I heard Joshua saying as far as like combining animation. I mean, that's fantastic. So what we're seeing is there's certain companies creating a different drive-through opera. There's one that I'm not going to give them away, but they're creating this piece where every singer will basically repeat their scene 12 times for 12 different groups of cars coming in, parking, seeing the scene. They continue to park to the other area and see the next scene, and park to the other area and see the next scene. So the AGMA is required company to have this extensive health parameters as well. So we are seeing another company that's doing opera by phone, which means that you can buy a singer calling you and singing a one-person, music set or story, and then they recommend you to go for a walk at the beach or a walk outside, put on your headphones and listen to them over the phone. So they're micro operas. So some of my singers are doing that, and they're doing maybe 20 in one day. And
Wow.
so it's a very intimate, it's a one-on-one opera experience, which is fantastic, and it's live, it's not recorded.
Right.
So those are some examples of what ingenuity is making our business do. So I love it. It's not very, it's not financially the best scenario for anybody. We all know that, but right now we're talking about survival and just keeping the art from going and giving opportunities to artists to express their artistry, basically.
All right. So Rebecca, what are you doing in humid Texas?
Well, our university's been really unusual, their reaction to the pandemic, in that we're allowed to have a hybrid model, but we're also expected to have some sort of face-to-face interaction with our students for at least 1 hour a week. And so our upper program is primarily undergrads. So right now, the plan is to have kind of a 3-tiered curriculum. We're going to do a scenes project where it's primarily arias, duets, trios, no more than that. Like Josh, we have a collaboration with dance where we're pairing a dance student, choreographer, pedagogy student with each one of our opera students is being paired with a dance student, and they're going to come up with some sort of collaborative project on narrative and movement, and I think that's going to be really wonderful. And then I'm actually going to break my students into small cohorts and have some sort of master class, yoga class, movement class on a weekly basis. One of the things I feel like our students crave more than anything is that communal experience, and I'm lucky enough to have a large rehearsal space, and it's somewhat seasonable in the fall in Texas where we can go outside and do things if we need to, or we have large spaces to work in that are relatively safe. The university and the music department specifically is requiring masks all the time, which we had auditions this last weekend, and that's a unique experience if you haven't been through that, to have your students sing at you in masks and all the interaction is in a mask. It takes an adjustment, but it's doable. We managed to have auditions successfully last weekend, so yeah.
Okay. John, what are you guys doing at Ball State?
Well, some of the solutions that we came up with are similar to what others have shared. The way that I say I, but my colleague Kara Chani's on this call also, and she's very involved. I was trying to think about what's the goal of the class anyway. What are we really trying to get the student experience to be, which is, to help them learn about the process of putting on an opera and all that entails, character development and all that stuff. And then we're also trying to communicate with an audience and have the students in the audience discover something new as part of what we're doing. And so the idea that we had was, I mean, our opera for the fall was going to be Albert Herring anyway. And so we're going to set it in 1918 and have social distancing and stuff be part of the story where, we have a grid marked out. We have fortunately a large enough rehearsal space, and with the cast being relatively small, we can actually mark out 6-foot squares all over the place and have the characters be concerned about their mask and be concerned about how far away they are from somebody else, and have that be a part of the story that they're telling. And I think that that'll connect with the audience, of course, because that's where they all are, literally, at that moment. And so we're trying to take it and make it something that we engage and embrace, as opposed to complain about. We want to just make an effort to engage with it. The other thing that we have, our university has actually been really good and very proactive about how to deal with all this stuff. So we're paying attention to close contact as far as the distance and masks and wear and all that stuff, so that we can do contact tracing if we need to. And we sort of have a continuum of plans so that worst case scenario, best case scenario, we sort of have a path through. So we're going to try to audio record fairly early on in the semester, sort of like Josh was talking about. And then we're going to film the show for broadcast later. And I've been doing some deep diving into all kinds of stuff like game design and all kinds of things, so I can do backgrounds and set design and all that kind of stuff. Like Josh was nodding. He's looked at that stuff too. And then the big thing that I did think about that I don't know if anybody else has mentioned is we have crowdfunding as part of our foundation development here on campus. And so we are having a relationship with them where we can have a brief, like a mini crowdfund for a couple of days, so that we can have a QR code when people see the broadcast that they can buy a virtual ticket to the show, so that we can get some financial support back, because we're pretty much funded entirely by tickets. I mean, we get a pittance from the university, as I'm sure the rest of you do. And then the rest of our funding is from money we raise ourselves, primarily through ticket sales. And so we really want to provide a venue where people can come and see it and pay to see it. Our workshop class is totally different than our performance does. So that's a first and second year sort of seminar experience for performance majors that's in the fall, and it's sort of a 2-season rotation. And so I've kind of found this to be somewhat liberating in that case, because there's a lot of content I was delivering live that I don't need to deliver live. I'm going to have it be asynchronous, online, forever, to be honest, because it gives me so much more time to do other stuff, because we're trying to convert the course into more of a first year project-based learning experience. And so we'll have time that we spend time talking about skill development and resumes and stuff like that one semester, and the other one's about repertoire. All that repertoire stuff can all be online, and and the students, I can assign them homework. It's a class. They can watch a video on their own time. And I find that it's giving me a lot more opportunity to make that class have a more special experience for the students. Honestly, we're going to talk about taking a scenes program out to underserved community to see opera that doesn't get to see it. So I'm kind of excited about it in some ways. So that's
great. Well, before I have a question, I just want to welcome all of our attendees from all over the country to, we have the Q&A down there. You can press that and ask a question. So John, you kind of alluded to it, and I was wondering for all of you, if this fall has brought new funding issues and or changes to what you have had in the past.
Well, in some ways, it's interesting because we got right up to staging and then canceled the show in the spring. So I actually still have all that money that I would have spent on Cendrillon last spring, right? So in some ways, we're financially better off than we would have normally been, which is kind of ironic. But as far as raising money, David has a question on here about crowdfund. We're not necessarily using that software, a crowdfund. I'm just talking about it as a concept. And they have multiple ways that they can do it. And our foundation's actually really very good and very proactive about that. So I'm not talking about that specific like website or anything like that. But the only way to get money is to ask, though. That's my experience in the profession.
Well, at least they didn't take away your Cendrillon money at the end of the year. It's like, oh, you didn't do the show. Okay, we're going to take that back.
Yeah, well,
it's nice of them.
I own the account, fortunately, so they can't do that. Oh. I was afraid of that, though.
So, Rebecca, I thought you had said in one of our board meetings that you had like a financial freeze of some spending monies at Sam Houston.
We did, yeah. was similar to John in that we were 1 week before tech and had to close down everything for our full production. And so all of that money that was not spent was reabsorbed into the university budget. And we went on a spending freeze to the end of the fiscal year, which is the end of August. And I haven't been given word as to what my new budget will be. We haven't been told that there's going to be budget cuts, but I can kind of recognize that because our projects are much different than maybe what they have in the past. Like I'm not going to do costuming for my scenes program because that costume changes involve getting in each other's faces. So I'm probably going to be spending less money in that way. But I'm also really lucky in that the university, my budget is not dependent on ticket sales. That is in a different fund. So we don't anticipate having live audiences. We're going to be live streaming. So I guess whatever fund that goes into will probably be suffering, but technically it's not supposed to come back to me. So I guess I'm lucky in that way. Yeah.
So a follow-up question is, for many of you, have students decided to maybe take a gap year, or have a lot of students decided to come back in person for opera? And you know, what is your opera workshop class size look like from just the last few years? Is it staying about the same, or have you seen some changes in that?
So for ours, we picked specifically smaller one acts and ensemble scenes that could incorporate the same amount of people. We're focusing on some scenes for undergrads and some scenes for graduate students. Last year we did The Light in the Piazza that had a full ensemble cast and all the bells and whistles on the main stage. We also did a full scenes program in the fall with about 30 singers. This time around we have about 15 singers that will be in the opera workshop. And we tried to make it more of an intimate setting. Generally, we have sophomores to seniors, as well as graduate students and artist diplomas. So we try to pick repertoire that can kind of hit all tier levels for our students. But this semester, we have noticed that the smaller participation really yields itself well to the needs of the project. So in addition to that, in the spring, we're going to do a Handel pastiche that will have arias and ensembles for more of the students to participate in at a larger level if we're able to come back and sing live together, but we can still create it using the same digital platforms that we have available now. We didn't have any of our incoming voice majors decline or defer. We have a full class of incoming freshmen, new graduate students. So we're very grateful that they all want to learn and develop the skills of this kind of new technology and push the performance platform to a new place.
Great. Anna, what kind of changes have you seen in opera companies around for this fall?
Well, I mean, as far as young singers is concerned, I think every program that was supposed to happen is going to happen. At least as far as the young artist programs is concerned. Mm-hmm. They are just like you are reinventing the program and the curriculum to fit whatever they can offer. I think the lack of opportunities to be on stage for a lot of these young singers, what happened is that a lot of these companies are going to allow and they will encourage singers to apply or come back a second year. Which what I'm seeing is that there's going to be this 1 year generation of young singers that might be skipped because a lot of these young artist programs will re-engage the people that were left behind, that did not finish the year or that couldn't go to the program this summer. So they will want to make those offers again for the following year. That means that the ones that were ready to come into the system will have to wait a little longer. I mean, that said, I have a feeling that a lot of, like I said before, a lot of these companies are going to go local and are going to go cheap and they're going to go versatile. And a lot of that is young singers. So maybe some of them will start moving into professional engagements sooner than expected, maybe not making a lot more money, but being very, very useful for theater, for producing companies. The other thing that I'm seeing and I'm hearing is that some companies are going into payroll. That means they're engaging a group of singers for the entire season, and not young artists, but leading roles, sort of a fest system. So that way they can have the same group of people for the entire season without the back and forth, and they can provide them with because it was such a big hit for the arts. A lot of companies are being very, very conscious that artists need a little bit more security. So they're creating systems for them to be in one place and perform for the longer time. So I wouldn't be surprised if over the next years, we move more into more of a fest system. I don't know if you guys saw the Atlanta Opera, which is doing the players, which is great names, and they're gonna get a monthly salary. And whenever they're available, they're gonna create content for the Atlanta Opera under that umbrella, which is what it's very different. It's very creative though.
So maybe a follow-up to that is, what would you give as advice to our students, who are maybe a little leery of entering the profession at this time? And maybe what kind of skills do you think they might need at this moment that would help them succeed?
Well, listen, I think that for the longest time, we were sort of focused on the theater. Like how do you sing out for the theater on top of an orchestra, and all those things are going to go back and be useful. But I think it's very important that you are training these students to work in different mediums, not only the theater medium, but the TV and the camera medium. I think bringing in somebody to your classes or to do a class on how to sing or how to act for the camera will be very beneficial for them to understand that the theater far out is not the same as this little thing in front of you. Knowledge on editing software, microphones, that technological aspect is going to be very important. Bringing an expert that can teach them how to utilize those electronic equipment will be very, very, very good for them, since the next year the auditions are going to be electronic. And I see it all the time. A lot of the singers just have no idea where to place the camera. They put it down here, they put it over here, the lighting is coming from the back, just little things like that we really are not ready to talk to our young singers about. I know that there's a group of in Opera America, the Performings Forum, they're working on those standards for young singers to understand how to work the camera, the microphone, and all that. So the more technically savvy they are, the more social media savvy they are, they're gonna have an advantage, I think, in the next year at least.
So what are you all struggling with this fall? I know that's a big question for the four of you who are running, collegiate programs, and you, Anna, as well. But what are your biggest struggles at this moment? Leigh?
My struggle is to unmute myself. I would say for us, because we start classes next Monday, for me, the biggest struggle is, and I think for the students as well, is the unknown. I mean, that's an obvious answer, I know, but we actually had a therapist that came to our opera workshop class when everything was, canceled in March. And he talked to us about, we were on a Zoom call, and he talked to us about dealing with the unknown. And he said that the human brain is wired to need to have concrete solutions for things. And he was telling the students and us to challenge ourselves and to embrace the questions. You don't have to have the answer for everything. And that actually helped me a lot. But I would say that's the biggest thing that I'm concerned about. That and selling tickets. Can't sell tickets. So that financial piece is a big one for opera.
Yeah. Rebecca, yes.
I think in our university, many of our students come from middle class or even working class backgrounds, and often are disadvantaged and are just often find themselves lucky to even be here. And I think trying to maintain a sense of positivity among the students and making sure that they stay with it. It's really easy to get discouraged for these young students. And so figuring out how to lead by example and lead with enthusiasm, I think I don't want to say it's been a challenge, but I think it's really been on the forefront of what my colleagues and I are trying to do, that, we tend to be kind of a safe place for them to be able to come and talk about things because they may not have that support system at home. And you want to see them see this degree through and gain these skills that they really need to be successful. So I think that's going to be the big challenge, for this semester.
Josh, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I think it's, again, about the unknown and about supporting our students, finding a way to convey your vision as a director for what the projects are going to look like when they've never done something like this on a screen or recordings, and making sure that the students really know step by step what the expectations are, how we're going to outline the project together, and how collaborations are going to bring something that we don't know exactly what it'll be like yet, but being open to the possibility that your work will matter and that your work is important, and we have to keep creating work and content together to share your passion for our art form. And I think that's the driving force behind the vision. We have to show them that we believe in what they're doing. We want to give them an opportunity to show and share their art form, and that we're going to create something exciting for our audiences to take them out of this kind of unknown of all around us all the time. So I think that's a really big part of finding the vision with our students.
Right. John?
Yeah, it's sort of the same thing. I want to always, I love what Josh just said about the point is we want to really have the student, and what Rebecca said, the student's experience is what we're really focused on. And what my fear is that they'll feel like they got gypped by COVID, and they didn't get the experience that the students from 2 years before were able to receive. And I really want to make sure that they get, that they're engaged and they feel like they're part of that creative process. And what I'm trying to do is, like I said before, is turn this negative, as Joshua said, this is a challenging creative environment to be in. But by putting students under that pressure to create within these constraints, I think they could learn something kind of transformative. And that's what my goal is. And, we're always, I tell my students all the time, every opera on the earth is trying to put the best work of art on stage with limited time, talent, and treasure, from everywhere. And so these limitations are just different limitations, and overcoming those limitations is essentially my job, as a director, and trying to get them to appreciate that reality and recognize that, we don't have 2 ASMs and a huge staff like I'd have for a professional opera when we do student opera. And I tell them that. It's like, yeah, well, normally an ASM would do that job, but we have Chuck, so Chuck's going to do it, And so I think just making it part of that limitations, be part of the process, I think is a way to embrace it and make it more positive if we can. That and uncertainty, I agree. Uncertainty is a struggle.
I've always joked with friends the last few years that I would be very interested to come back in 100 years and find out what opera had become or what the art form was. And now I feel like, well, I'm going to find out in like a year or two, right? So I don't have to come back from the dead. Hopefully, I can actually figure out that. What do you all think this evolution might become of our art form? Do you think this is a monumental time for us, or this is a blip in history that hopefully, in a few years, we might come back to pre-COVID opera?
I would say that I don't think our theater acoustic opera background will disappear. I believe that whenever we are ready to go back on the theater, we will go back on the theater, because that is so part of human nature. We've been doing this for hundreds of years. I just think that we will add a new dimension to our performance experience. I think that the opera industry is in diapers when it comes to digital media, and everybody else is ahead of us. So finally, I mean, this is the real reason. I mean, this is the excuse to get on top of it and learn. And you know what? A lot of things are going to develop out of this experience. Like, it is scary that it's very uncertain, but the possibilities of our, I mean, are amazing. A lot of us were singers in college, and look where we are. So a lot of these artists that are coming out of this time, not all of them might end up being artists vocally. They might be artists digitally. They might be in creating in that aspect, and there might be the future of the opera digital industry. We have to see this as an opportunity to evolve. Like you said, how is it going to look? Nobody knows. We all remember 2008. We all remember that 2008, the industry took a humongous hit, and the way companies program now, at least up to March, it's a direct response of what happened in 2008. The mix of grand opera with small opera, the amount of new opera that it has come out since 2008 is amazing. Like, all of us have young singers singing all this American new opera, and all that started or got amplified because of the crash of 2008 and all these companies closing. We have to sort of reinvent the system, so it will be reinvented again.
Yes, Josh.
I agree with all of that. I think that we're going to see really big growth for intimacy in opera, bringing opera to your homes, to your screens, and providing closeness of the artistry, and to get to know our artists more, and to really see what people are interested in. I think it's going to give us a vision of really quick what people are interested in, how they want to start partaking of opera, and really experimenting with what opera can be. I think we're going to start seeing boundaries being pushed of what screen and what stage, and how we're going to deliver that content will be the next big jump.
Interesting. Well, it's kind of a little bit of a morbid question. I guess it's not morbid, but do any of your schools have contingency plans for if your university decides to shut down in the middle of the quarter or the middle of the semester? John, you were quick to raise your hand.
Well, in addition to being me, I'm also the chair of faculty council at my university. So I'm attending more meetings that I really don't want to go to. And this meeting got me out of one, though. So thank you.
Yes, we're happy to help.
I think they've done a really pretty strong job of having a range of contingencies. I was proactively asked, like, way back in the summer to come up with, well, what if we start live and then went online? What if we started online and then went live? What if we did a high flex and went, you know what I mean? We had to come up with and the idea was that we would create the ideas as the best practices experts in our fields. And then they would help us try to pull off what was the right thing to do, as opposed to some big top-down dictate, you know. And being there at several of the meetings, I was able, as the advocate for the weird and the unusual, to say, yeah, that works for English class, but it doesn't work for what we do, you know, and make that point. But I think they've actually done a pretty good job of thinking about, and the other, you don't want to have the Pollyanna approach where it's like woohoo, woohoo, woohoo. And you also don't want to have, if one person gets it, we close the whole school down either, because that's not necessarily practical also. And so they've got a series of benchmarks that they've already sort of said and thought about a very, you know, to make an informed decision about that. I don't really envy the leadership about the cost benefit analysis of all this. I mean, that's a complicated decision to make, you know, and I think they're making it thoughtfully, and they're in contact with the health officials and all that stuff. So I feel pretty good about that aspect of things.
Well, I mean, they're so lucky to have you be a big part of that at Ball State. And it kind of goes to my next question, which I had already written a few days ago, is, you know, what guidelines or counsel have you been given by your institution? And you know, do you feel like these have dictated what your artistic and educational goals can be or are at this point? Yeah, Leigh.
I feel that they, as I was saying before, I think CU has done a really great job with letting us do, as John was talking about, offering ideas and different different levels of things that we might be able to do. I wouldn't say that it dictates my artistic choices or our artistic choices, but it obviously has a huge influence. You know, it really has to be. There are no audiences in the building. They have to stand 12 feet apart, you know, or whatever your protocols are, whatever your rules are. So of course, it definitely influences the artistic choices we can make. But as we've heard all these wonderful people talk about today, I mean, there's so many creative ideas coming up because of this. So you have to embrace it.
I think, Rebecca, you had your hand raised there.
Our university this summer allowed, or I guess required, each department throughout the university to come up with their own protocols. So we had lots of meetings this summer, and then they kind of backtracked and said, no, you can actually have more students in the space, and they also required us to do more face-to-face time than originally we were hoping would happen. But I'm really lucky because the music school, we have about 500 students in our music school. The faculty in the music school have erred on the side of conservatism, and that we probably have stricter protocols in place, just knowing that we're the ones creating the aerosols. And our chair is supporting that. So we're creating our own protocols, not just to protect our students, but also to protect ourselves. Because we just don't know. There's a lot that we don't know. So, yeah.
Yes, Josh.
We've done the same thing. We are face-to-face. We had our first live classes today. We've made choices in the School of Music to provide virtual classroom activities, asynchronous, synchronous, and hybrid learning models, so that students can attend from their dorms or homes if they need protection, if they're coming home to people that they need to be protected as well. We're trying to make it so that there's no group singing on campus, and following the research and the guidelines to protect all of our students. We're doing everything virtually, purposefully, so that they can really achieve what they need to do without feeling encumbered or scared in a large rehearsal space. We do have select large halls available for individual singers with proper aerosol turnovers and distancing and all of that. So that is possible for some of our graduate students, our artist diploma students, or some of our ensembles with proper spacing and exterior rehearsals as well. So we try to kind of accommodate both being in person for those that are viable for that, and then creating virtual opportunities for students to still learn, grow, and rehearse, and feel like they have something to contribute, a place to be, and a learning vehicle for achieving what they need this semester.
Right. Good. You know, we've talked a lot about well, Josh had said, you know, giving assignments and web-based content. I was wondering if there was any web-based content from specific opera companies or artistic organizations or certain artists that you might be able to recommend or that you have been using. Anna,
Me?
were you gonna?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, we can say that the Dallas Opera has been very innovative in the way they are approaching the whole thing. They have created the TDO channel, which is they are creating content. I mean, it's everything from talk shows to webinars. They're discussing artistry, they're discussing singing. There's a lot of information out there that I find that companies are giving. Chicago Opera Theater has created a series of a web series on interviews with different parts of the industry. This is super, super useful for our young singers to understand what everybody's position in the industry is. It interviews agents, conductors. I mean, companies are really going out of the way to create this content and make it available. I think it's very useful because it's content that is not, we're so busy producing and we're so busy doing our jobs that we don't stop and do this kind of work, which is where our artists are learning a lot of the ins and outs of the industry. I think.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, just to dovetail on what Anna was saying, I mean, one of the things that's really, I think, a boon from us all becoming so much more familiar with all this process is, I have, we have a lot more access to guest masterclass kind of people to come in. I'm doing several of those around the country, and people are coming to me for, I mean, a ridiculously low cost for the talent that you're getting into your place, considering, and I think it's a way for us to really, just like I'm going to be able to do a lot of meetings like this instead of having to go across campus to some stupid room to do them. We will be able to take advantage of this content and have a lot more access and a lot more face-to-face. Just like I've seen my mom a lot more in the last 6 months than I would have normally. We can see a lot of other stuff, a lot more because we have learned about this new technology, and I think it's something to embrace and a great way for us all to, exchange across the miles.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you said that you're thinking so positively. David Ronis from Madison said, he said he noticed there's a convenient effect of me sitting in front of my lemon tree, and we're going to make lemonade out of these lemons. So I think that was a very funny statement from David. Rebecca, you had raised your hand a second. No? So, one of the, Kirk, our wonderful executive director, made a really good statement that, all of this is taking so much more time and energy to implement. And how are all of you doing? How are all of you guys? I mean, it's not only the students' mental health, but it's our mental health. And we're leaders and we're examples and have to hold ourselves up in status and be examples. But are you all exhausted? How are you all dealing with all of this personally? Leigh, are you going to say something, or you just have a big smile on your face?
I'm just thinking, I just thought it was funny that none of us could respond to that question. For me, I've experienced different waves of things. Of course, when we were just about to do the Marriage of Figaro and it was canceled at dress rehearsal, we were all pretty bummed. Then we had Beatrice and Benedict coming up after that, and I decided to do a Brady Bunch opera. It's online if you want to check it out at cupresents.org/digital. But that was a lot of fun for us, and I got excited actually during that time. I mean, I wish I hadn't gotten excited because of this stupid COVID situation, but I was excited to learn new things, and the fact that we could even do this. And then they were using their own equipment at home, and we pulled it all together with a videographer and did that together. That was pretty exciting. But then as the summer rolled on, I don't know, I guess mainly after school was out, I got more tired. I think I get more tired when I'm not working. But I'm ready to start. I'm actually psyched up again. So that's my mental health story of the summer.
Josh.
I think it goes in waves, like you were saying. I attended a lot of seminars and tutorials about how to produce digital content, rules about copyright, the science of what's going on with COVID and aerosols. I thought there were a myriad of organizations that really promoted great learning access and information, but it often gave us an overwhelming wave of information to process, consider, replan. I made several plans and attempts at plans and thought, I'm not sure if this is viable. And I've been really grateful to lean on my colleagues for support and to get their feedback and think about what works best for our students in this time and what might work best with our facilities and with the timeline that all of them also have to achieve it, learn it, do it, and see the vision all the way through. Plus their classes and the overwhelming sense of what's going to happen next in the world in front of us. I think that has been, the most wearing thing for our students, and to see them go through that. So finding a way to lean on each other, I think, has been really helpful, but it can be overwhelming at times.
Yeah. John, you were going to say something as well.
I just think it's a good opportunity for us to just really engage kind of radically with our students about, and just be real with them about the fears and anxieties about all this stuff. And, you know, that, I mean, we had our Cendrillon that was just about to start staging, like right as all this stuff happened, you know, and there's kids who that was their big opera role that they had, period, as a college student, was to be, you know, Madame Leheve or whatever in that show. And you just really feel for kids that have really overcome so many great obstacles to learn a great part like that and then not get to do it. And it was hard to look them in the eye and go, yeah, that sucks, you know, and I don't have an answer, you know, but I think it's good for them to see us be real that way. I think it's really important. So that's all.
Sorry, John.
Part of the other struggle is, you know, I have a person, my wife's mom lives with us. She's a very healthy, fit person, but she's still in in her 70s. And so it's something that we really want to be real. I'm going to be really real with the students about. I feel like I'm in pretty good fitness shape and stuff, but, you know, I want her to be around, you know, and I'm going to encourage the students to behave appropriately and think about spread and all that stuff so that we can all still be together altruistically, you know, that they can, to engage them as social people, to be good people, you know, and that's, I think, part of our job also. So that's sort of the other aspect of it. I'm trying to encourage them so that they can encourage me back like they usually do.
Rebecca, did you want to?
Well, I guess I have to tag on to what everybody else has said. That when you have to slow down and really change the course of what you do professionally, you tend to cherish interpersonal relationships more. And it's really made me stop and think about really what my role as an educator is, and how much more important it is that you're not just a teacher or a producer of this art form, but also a mentor. I think that's been kind of a nice discovery. You know, of course, I miss doing all the big things, but it's also, I think we're really going to appreciate one another more when we all can come back together, and I'm looking forward to that very much.
So Anna had put in the chat here, you know, I've sent many kids over the last year or so to we have a wonderful counseling service at UC Santa Barbara. And I know the number by heart because it's a 4 endings, you know, suffix. So I'm sure, Anna, how are you challenged by this? Because, you know, you're the mentor of so many young artists and established artists. What are your challenges?
You know, for the longest time, and I have a hard time talking about it without getting emotional. I mean, I was in the midst of many bookings for young singers that was their first contracts and their first year out, and some that were getting their big breaks, their big debuts, and it was such a shock. I mean, as soon as it happens, we started doing roster meetings every week just to talk through it. And there was not one meeting for the first 4 months that somebody didn't cry, because people were going through a mourning period, and some of them jumped at it right away and started making videos and singing online from the living room. Some could not sing for 2 months. I just could not phonate. And they had a hard time getting motivated to sing for something that they did not know if it was going to happen or not. So it was really hard, and some of them, you know, still struggle by now, but I think they're getting ready and they're adapted now to the idea that offers will come. They will have to supplement their income somehow. They'll have other ways to create art, and then at some point it'll pick up again. But that everybody is in the same boat, that they're not the only ones, that the business is not pushing them out or excluding them of an experience, that everybody is being excluded of that experience, and it's in their hands to basically take that opportunity and do what they need to do with it and whatever makes them happy. Some have walked away from the industry just because maybe they were on the verge of doing so and this just was the last push. And some ones have hunkered down and sort of just find ways to connect with the people and with the companies and with the audience, and they offered recitals. But I think at some point, one of my advice to my singers was just sing whatever you want. If you're a soprano, sing tenor repertoire, sing mini, sing whatever initially you fell in love with opera. Like, why did you fall in love with opera? Hearing Mira Lafreni, hear it, sing along with it, just out of the top of your lungs and get that feeling again. Because it's going to be hard to get it all out for a while. Because we're going to be singing to microphones, which is a total different experience. But we are counselors. You guys, me, we are their counselors. They come to us and they tell us how they feel, and they cry in the lessons and they cry in the rehearsals. And we have to tell them that it's okay to cry and go through that process because it's hard.
Yeah. This is switching gears here, but there was a question from our wonderful friend Ann Baltz. Is the licensing on this online content? So if we as collegiate opera programs want to post things online, are you all investigating licensing? Are we having any difficulties? John, yeah.
Yeah, the Albert Herring folks are actually really helpful. I mean, I just put it to them, hey, it's uncertain. We want to do your show. It might be live. It might be online. It's likely going to be online for a brief period of time as if it were a broadcast. And, you know, and they were very flexible about it. I was very pleased with how they responded. I'm sure they were happy to have their stuff performed, period, to be honest. But
right. Who did you say? I missed your first sentence.
It was Albert Herring, you know, the people that get the rights for Albert Herring for the fall.
Oh, Herring, right.
Yeah, and they were, you know, back and forth. And yeah, so, I mean, I think I was very pleasantly surprised by that. And the fee was very reasonable.
Oh, good to know.
I would say
Josh.
If people are looking for resources, Opera America did a really great panelist chat about reaching out to copyrights, about artist management, and figuring out what kind of content you want to really create. If it's a one-time live stream, if it's a hosted thing that happens across multiple sites, if it's a ticketed event, digital or online in any way. They went through a really expansive 2-hour panel discussion with Boozy and Hawks, Carl Fisher, Shermer, all of the major licensing agencies, and they took live questions about what do I do if I want to do just a single one act, or what do I do if I want to do arias? How do I do that, and what's the best protocols? So I would encourage everyone to reach out to Opera America's resource page because they have some fantastic guidelines, and I think that the chat that we got to watch is still live on their site.
Great. David Ronas had a follow-up to that. He's run into whether releasing videos worldwide or limiting it to the US. And he hasn't been able to find any resources to tell him what he can do or not. Does anyone have any? No? All right, David, we'll try to hunt that down for you. Appreciate that. Well, I want to thank all of you for today. And the amount of love and caring for our art forum and for our students and our artists was so evident today. And that, you know, that means so much to, I know, to our members, and knowing that we're all in this together. You know, we all have these struggles, and we all have, while our struggles might be different at each institution, we have them. And, you know, you guys are so imaginative and creative and thinking of ways to make an experience. But the underlying core is that we're trying to help students and people. And it doesn't matter so much what those opportunities are, but from all of you, it's obvious that your caring and your kindness towards you students is the main, is kind of what we need to be. We need to be there for them as artists and young people growing up. And I just really, really appreciate all your comments. I want to reach out to all our attendees and say you're not in this alone, that the NOA is here for you, your friends and colleagues around the country. You know, if you're struggling and stressed out, reach out to your friends, reach out to your colleagues. I know that I can say that all the NOA members will be there for each other. And you're not in this alone, right? And we'll get through this, and we're going to create something that might be different. We will get back to live theater, as Anna said. I don't doubt that. And we will hopefully have a new, exciting version of technology added to our wonderful art form, which I think is great. So thank you to all of you. I have a special thanks to University of Michigan School of Music for hosting, our wonderful executive director, Kurt Siebertson. I want to thank Paul Hoteling, our former president, and also for doing all the Facebook. So thank you all. Have a wonderful first quarter of the year or semester, and we hope to see you either virtually and or in person in January. So we'll have check your emails and all that. We're working on that very diligently. So thank you all, and have a great afternoon and a great fall semester. Thank you to our panel, Rebecca, Anna, Josh, John, Leigh. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.